I was born in Klamath Falls, Oregon. My parents stayed there just shortly, and my earliest memories are at Lorain, Oregon, which is southwest of Eugene, about 22 miles. It was a small logging community. My father was a logger. This was right in the middle of the Depression. So there wasn't much money at that time. The first house that I remember we lived in had no electricity or running water. It wasn't too many years before we got water in the house, and later we got electricity in about 1937 or 38. And we lived there until 1941. My mother died in the spring of 1941, and then I lived with an aunt for a couple of years, and then my father remarried, and we lived in Springfield, Oregon, where I finished high school. A few weeks, and were loaded on ship and headed for Korea. We never went to boot camp. So there was a group of about 80 of us, and I don't remember the exact number now. There were some from Portland, Eugene, I believe, and Klamath Falls maybe. And none of us ever saw boot camp. We just went and learned on the job and made the landing at Incheon, Korea, and we were in that campaign, and then we went around to the east side of Korea and made a landing at Wonsan and went to the Chosin Reservoir, where we were surrounded by the Chinese from the day after Christmas until, I believe it was December 10th. And we got out of that escapade, and finally went back to the south end of Korea, where we regrouped, and we went up through the central of Korea, where the lines were beginning to be established for the eventually they settled back on the 48th or 38th parallel, which separates North and South Korea now.
How long were you there?
In Korea?
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see. I think we made I would have to check. I think the landing at Incheon was early September, and then we were there through the winter of 49, the spring of 50 and 51. We were there in 50 and 51. It wasn't 49. So there, the winter of 50, 51, where we saw temperatures, they say, between 30 and 40 below zero. And being out in that kind of weather makes it pretty well impossible to keep from suffering frostbite and things like that. Many people lost limbs because of that. It's one of the major battles in the Marine Corps history. Cold, and the fact that we were surrounded for a couple of weeks, a little over 2 weeks.
Tell me about that.
And we were out. The Marine Corps unit had about 12,000 people in it, and there was an extra about 3,000 people who were made up by British Royal Marines and the Army, and probably a total of about 15,000 people, surrounded by somewhere in the neighborhood of 120,000 Chinese. So we're outnumbered about 10 to 1, and we were able to get out of that mess, and pretty well we brought most of our dead and all of our wounded. Some of them were flown out, some of them we brought out on trucks, and so it was a pretty exciting time.
Very frightening, I would think.
Frightening.
And what happened at the end of the battle? I mean, did you?
We went back on ships and went back to South Korea.
Okay. How many men did you lose?
In my unit, I was in the artillery and we only lost 3 that were killed in action all in one day. But most of the time we were able to get out. The infantry lost several thousand people. I don't remember what the number is now.
So was that early on in when you got to Korea that you went to this battle, or was this at the beginning of your stay there?
Well, the Korean War started in the summer of '50, and this happened in November, December of '50. So it was early in the war. But the war lasted about 3 years, and that was the beginning. And then it was a stalemate beginning in the summer of '51 until the war was over, where they were pretty much a fairly established line across the center of Korea, east and west. And after the ceasefire, they established a line across, which was the old 38th parallel, which was the line of North and South Korea when the war started.
And it has remained.
It has remained.
The same place. So that was established early on in the war, the 38th parallel.
Yes.
Okay, so you went back. Were you injured?
No. I suffered some frostbite, but nothing serious.
Right. And so what happened after that when you came back from?
Well, I came home in about May, in May or June. Got home in June. It took us about 22 days to come back on the ship, on the troop ship.
Okay, but after you came out of the battle,
okay,
and were back in South Korea, did you stay there a period of time?
Yes, I was up there. We were still engaged, and had to fight our way back up because the Chinese had come back down into South Korea again, and so we had to work our way back up, and we pushed them back, and up to actually north of the 38th parallel a little ways, and then that was when the line was established in. I would have to look at the history now because I left there in May of '51 to come home, and then the battle was still going on, and so I came back to the United States and was in a guard company on a naval ammunition depot, or naval ships ammunition depot at Bangor, Washington, until the following May, and I was just...
So another year?
Yeah, I was actually 22 months active duty.
Okay. How did you come home? Tell me a little bit about the experience of leaving finally and coming home.
Well, I was anxious to get home.
Of course.
I got home and my wife met me we landed at Treasure Island, San Francisco Bay, and we stayed there for a couple of days till we got our paperwork ready, and then we got on the train and came up back to Springfield, where her parents lived, and we stayed there for 30 days, and then I was stationed at the ammunition depot at Bangor, Washington, until the following, I believe it was May when I got out.